Awesome to welcome Coach Jerry Stackhouse with us to share the game. Coach Stackhouse is going into his third season as head coach at Vanderbilt. Prior to Vanderbilt, Stackhouse served as an assistant coach with the Memphis Grizzlies and the Toronto Raptors, and as a head coach of the Raptors 905. Stackhouse earned NBA G League Coach of the Year honors en route to the team's first NBA G League championship. Of course, many of us know Coach Stackhouse as an 18-year NBA veteran who was a two-time NBA All-Star and as a college star at North Carolina. Also notable is Coach Stackhouse's success as running his Stackhouse Elite AAU program, where he had great success. Coach Stackhouse, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Chris.
This is going to be fun to talk to you. And one of the reasons is, as I highlighted in your intro, is the fact that with your pedigree, you've coached at all three levels. You coached at the youth high school level, college level, and the professional level. And I'm wondering, how has that helped shape your philosophy?
Well, I think for me, it's just it shows that, with young guys, I think young guys that at the grassroots level, they really don't have any habits built in yet. So I think I really enjoy coaching the younger players. Not that I don't enjoy college or even the pro level. The talent there is immense, but just being able to have a open, clear mind without having any, habits that you have to break down. Most of the time when you get guys at those levels and different systems and different programs that they've been in, they develop habits that aren't necessarily conducive to winning at the highest level. So I think if you can start, build those foundational tools early on, and you can just continue to build on them. So I think that's what it helped me just from the standpoint of knowing that everybody wants to learn, everybody wants to get better. And if you come with an approach of how to teach them, I think that's the key. The kids learn at different ways. Some guys you can just tell them. Some guys you have to show them, maybe visually on the screen. And some guys you literally have to go and move them to different spots, and then they got a better feel of where they're supposed to be on the floor. So I think hitting all three of those levels over, and that's what I've learned, coaching, grassroots, high school, college, and at the pros, that making sure that you do all those things to make sure those that they get it. You can't skip any steps because guys learn differently.
Yeah, that's great stuff. And I can just imagine how much that has influenced what you do and how you do it. And the other thing that I've heard you say, which I couldn't agree with more, is how you were shaped also by things that you didn't like. And I'm imagining that's natural for a player like you that's played at all these levels, is that you've learned also what you don't like, and that's helped shape your philosophy.
Definitely, man. As a scorer, I like to think that my teams are a defensive team first. Most people that watch me play over the course of my career, it's like this guy scored over 16,000 points. So how is he you think I was more of an offensive coach, and I do. I love offense. I love misdirection plays and different things like that. But more so than anything, defensively, I think I love the fact that the things that I saw driving to the baseline, guys rotating early, bigs really being aggressive up to the level and pick and rolls, are things that made me pick it up. And that's kind of how I built our defensive principles. So, it's the things that I didn't like to see are the main focal points of our defensive philosophy.
That's great. And we're going to get into some of the Raptor 905 stuff, but I certainly talked to some of the people that were involved with you when you were there, and they all talked about that. They talked about your emphasis on defense, and it does somewhat contradict kind of the impact that you had as a player, where you were such a scorer. But of course, you played both sides of the ball, so that's natural as well. Is that one of the hardest things to be able to convince players to be able to do, to be able to build them to their next level?
Not if you want to play for me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Pretty simple. If you want to get a chance to have the freedom that you want offensively, you got to show me that you can do it on the defensive end. And I think that's the the staple of winning. And we saw that again. All of the the talk about offense and spacing and utilizing the three. The team that hosted the trophy up the other night in the NCAA was a team that was tough defensively. You could see it from the onset of the game. that they came with a approach of, being aggressive, getting into the offensive player, something that I don't think that, Gonzaga had seen all year, at that level. So I think the physicality that those guys had, yeah, they made shots, they were confident and made shots on the offensive end, but I think that stemmed from their disposition on the defensive end. When you start with that disposition, I think you're going to find enough points. Even if your offense isn't going good, you're still going to get some easy opportunities in transition because your defense created those opportunities for you.
Yeah, it was tremendous to watch. And it just showed you again that the balance of scoring and defense and that physical presence, as you said, is just so impactful. And I thought that that's one of the challenges for a lot of teams is they're either one or the other, but they're not both. And that balance is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a balance that you have to find in recruiting. Yeah, you get a guy that can, score, 30 points and, easily, and it comes naturally and easy to him offensively, but, he can't guard in his shadow, can't guard anything. So, I mean, I think those are, you have to have some balance there, making sure that, all right, you got to, and then I think you just feel like, oh, he's so talented offensively that I can teach him defense. No, you want to have some natural instincts defensively as well. I think those are the things that I look at when I'm scouting a player and watching his film. Yeah, most times when you see the highlight package or whatever they post on defense, it's all about them scoring. I love to watch a highlight that's going to mix in a guy taking a charge, a guy just doing some intangible things and having a good feel of dropping and being off of his man on the weak side. I mean, as great as I'm as big as Jalen Suggs fan. I mean, I thought he was great for college basketball, but I don't know how many times I saw him just lock into his man and not see the ball during the Final Four. And I think that that's you just can't do that. I mean, everybody we've been taught from. Well, I have been taught from the beginning, with Coach Smith, C-man ball. That's, no way that you can react to what's going on and be on the string defensively if you're not seeing the ball. And then I think that's one of the things that a lot of young players struggle with, even pro players. I mean, again, they don't have those fundamental, those foundation things but I mean, I yell that probably more so than anything, after an offensive possession and we're running back in transition, see the ball, and because again, and we have what we call those, I don't know if this is kid friendly. I say the oh shoot moments, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah,
those oh shoot moments, like, oh shoot, oh, I gotta, and then all of a sudden they're making a layup and you're right there, you're contesting it. But if you saw that ball, you would have been over there in time to possibly take a charge or definitely, be a vertical or rim protection. So I think it's really important that you see the ball early in transition.
That's great. And staying on the defensive theme, maybe can you give us a brief overview of some of your defensive philosophies? Are you helping one pass away? Are you holding the weak side? Are you rotating at the rim? Where are you helping from, et cetera?
Yeah, I think we try to touch on all of those things. We try to teach all of those different coverages, whether pick and roll coverage in the middle. We want to we could, really be up to the level and be aggressive and try to corral the ball handler. If it's a really good ball handler that that he's a threat to make plays, we want to get the ball out of his hand and make maybe the big man that set the screen, make him pass the ball to him and let him become a playmaker. Or if it's a really good playmaker as a big, we would cover and let that guard come downhill, a little bit more. So I think being able to mix in those coverages a little bit, we want to war, pin downs, get a show out, from our big, if his guys happen to slip to the rim, our weak side guys, rotate for him so he can feel comfortable getting out there and being aggressive and not letting shooters come off easy. Guys that are less shooters that we know they want to turn that corner on those pin downs, we want to gap them so we can catch them before they can turn and get the ball to the middle of the paint. So I just think in war and all of our screen and rolls, everything on the post, we want at least a goal, which is kind of a 3/4 defense. And I have no problem if you want to get all the way around and get into a full front, which is our red. And, just because, and been putting pressure on the ball, we're more of a lot of teams that run chin action, you want to get to their bodies and ward them off of those rip screens and back screens. Other teams that don't, run those type of actions, we want to be in the gap. So it's being able to do both. Sometimes if my man on the perimeter hit, I got to go to his body and get ready to war those screens. Sometimes if he hits, I got to get in the gap because now it's a team that likes to penetrate and we can show some resistance and show some bodies there. Not a big deny team. Obviously you get down sometimes and you need to deny and put some pressure, but I like for our guys, instead of extending so well, to be more in a position to help, because that's sometimes it's tough to see the ball if you're in full deny. We mix it up a little bit defensively with our zone, kind of a 2-3 matchup zone. We go full court diamond defense sometimes, just try to pressure a little bit. Sometimes a token 2-2-1 and fall back into that zone. Mix in a little 1-3-1. I just think it's just different teams that you have to give different looks. But for the most part, we're a man-to-man team. We're a no middle team. Try to keep the ball out of the middle. And come with our low man, drop and rotate around that, and I think a lot, 5 out is something that we spend a lot of time on. Teams are going more to 5 out, where you got bigs on the perimeter, and those rotations are differently. Now you don't have someone that's cracking back on a big that's around the basket. Now you got to drop to space and get ready to have some kind of some structure into your rotations, to the perimeter. So we spend a lot of time on those things, making sure that we can adjust, game to game. Not, we have our identity, we kind of have our of who we are, and hopefully teams give us those alignments. But if teams maneuver those alignments on us, we got to be, ready to adjust to that. And because I said everybody has good plays, and but at the end of those plays, what are we going to do? So we got to learn how, more so than learning how to defend a play, we want to learn how to defend actions. That's the key to being a good defensive team, is learning how to defend actions.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I'm curious, when you talked about warring a cutter, and as an example there, is that generally scouting report specific, whether you ward or you're in the gap, or is it more player decision-making, or is it somewhat both?
Yeah, I think it's kind of both. I mean, like, we want to war pin down no matter who it is. Right. Okay. For the most part, if we've been watching film, we notice they're not really looking to come off the shoot, they're really looking to just try to turn the corner and get downhill, then we make an adjustment to gap. But our principle, if kind of our Bible of our defense, if you asked our guys on our roster, what is our principles in those coverages, is to war and to, get a show out from the big and get protection. And then obviously adjustment from an offensive team was to try to take that guy that's pulling it for the big and maybe have him high, so it makes it a difficult rotation. So I mean, that's when now you're coaching against somebody now, because they're making those adjustments on the fly against your coverages. So I think those are things that we warring, like the cross screens. See a lot of times guys lose the body, say if a cross screen on the box to box to the bigs from, post or post up, and guy come underneath, and now you stop in front of him, he's dead. So we want to try to stay on his body as much as we can. The guy, that pick the picker action, now you got somebody, the guy that set the cross screen, now he's coming off the top for a pick the picker. We like to have that weak side guy in a little bit to, kind of deter him coming to the top and those type of things. So it's just, again, it's all personnel driven. If it's someone that that's a knockdown shooter on the weak side, then we got to be a little bit more cognizant of not shrinking as much off of him. So again, it's looking at the last 3 or 4 games of how they played, a rhythm of what they're doing, and coming up with a game plan of doing, and having a backup to that. Like I said, no matter what you think, coming into a game, something can happen. They start, somebody gets hot and you have to make an adjustment, and you got to be willing to do that. So we make sure that we have a coverage that we're starting the game in, and the backup coverage just in case that doesn't work. And if that doesn't work, then we might jump in the zone.
There's always options, right? There's always
options. And because I remember one time in the G League, man, we went out and played the Phoenix team out in Prescott, the Suns. And man, they were a great shooting team, and we just couldn't guard them. And I was like, man, let's just jump in the fist. Let's just jump in fifth, see if we can stop them that way. And we actually slowed them down. It's like, man, a great shooting team had 5 guys around the perimeter that could make threes, but because we didn't give them, a rhythm of their man offense and forced them to, play more of their zone sets, we were able to contest them and wind up winning the game. So I just think those are, most people, like, if I'd have thought about it, like, man, there's no way I'm zoning this team the way they shoot the basketball coming in. But once you get into the game, get into the heat of battle and trying to find something that works, and luckily for us, that works, we were able to match up their shooters a lot better.
Well, it's such a great example. And it also speaks to the reality that team might not have been used to playing against a lot of zone for the very reason you stated. And all of a sudden, like what might not make sense makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, I just think you just have to, have a package, and then I think that's what we try to do as far as our development with our guys, that, hopefully, once you leave here, that you can go play anywhere. Again, I can go on the court because I understand the game. I understand how to defend actions, the principles of being in and seeing man and ball, and those things they don't come naturally sometimes. You got to drill them. I think that's the thing. No matter what, we're going to start practice with touch close. I don't care how tired we are or whatever. We're practicing. We're going to work on our touch closeouts. We're going to work on our drops. We're going to work on those things to nauseam, so they become natural. And it's different now in college, where you have 30 games, like, as opposed to the pros where you have 50 games. Normally you spend those first 20 games trying to get everything right, and there are going to be some ups and downs, and then that last 30, now we know who we are. But now you're in a college season, 20 games in, as you having an up and down, trying to figure things out, the season's almost over. So we got to try to expedite that learning process a little more, and that's why last summer was so important. Nobody had a summer, so those young guys coming in and kind of the teaching and the onboarding that's needed for them to be productive, they didn't have that. So it was kind of a cram session in the fall, and I thought our guys did a pretty good job. But I'm looking forward to getting the full summer again.
I have no doubt about that. And every coach listened a little bit more when you said closeouts, coach. So I got to follow up on that, because I believe that for closeouts, coaches teach it based on theory and players play based on reality. So as a player that's closed out a lot in your career, what have you found the best way to close out is?
Well, I think I don't like chops. I know a lot of people teach chop, 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 chop. I like to get there close to the touch. I want to get there as fast as I can and close to the touch with the stick hand. And like that. If you, we grade everything. You can close out and get all the way to the touch. If you don't have a stick hand, that's still -1. Again, because now a guy, even as you got all the way to the touch, he can still shoot the ball. And one of the terms that I love to use is on the rise is too late. With top-notch shooters, if you're shooting, if he's already on the rise and now you coming up, that ball's already gone. So I think if you come out with that stick hand, that'll deter him from actually shooting the basketball and put it down to where we got things built in to handle that, like the closeout, no middle. I think that's if I could find a solution to get that to all of our guys to be able to close out, finding that happy medium of closing out no middle, but without allowing that straight line drive. The straight line drive kills you, just as bad as even if you close it out with the stick hand and you didn't allow him in the middle, but now the low man can't get there in time because you didn't offer any resistance on that closeout. So I think that, the thought process for us is trying to teach closeout to force them to the corner, not to force them, to the rim. Try to force them to the corner. Try to guard that first dribble. And I think that's like in the pros, if you drive in the slot, it's death if you leave that strong side corner. And help. Boom, one dribble, you in the slot. I know a lot of pack line teams, but in college, I've seen that they're not as effective at shooting the ball in the corner. So I used to be more kind of 90-10, as far as we want to be more locked into the corner, 90%, a little bit in the gap, 10%. I think I think now we can almost be 60-40, 60-40 of being in that gap. And then if they hit it, once you see that gather on the gather, and now he's about to pass it to the corner, I want that foot planted so I can push off and get back there. But we want to make it look crowded because, again, just the numbers say that they're not making it at the clip as they do at the next level. I don't know why, in a sense. To you, it seemed like it would all translate, but those just are some of the things when you start looking at the analytical data that is happening. They just don't. The college game don't shoot the corner three as well as they do at the pros.
It's such a great point there, Coach. And I love that you mentioned chops, and that is an example of what I would say is more of a coach's theory. But the reality is, when you watch players actually close out, they don't chop. Right? Most NBA players don't chop when they close out because they've learned the way that's most effective for them.
Yeah, I mean, because as you're sitting up there, chop, that ball's gone. The guys are shooting it too well. I mean, you see the number of threes that are taken now. You're shooting more threes probably in the first half than most teams shot in a full game back in the 90s. So obviously, the guys are getting a lot more proficient and efficient at shooting the three. So you got to, want them to play. And I think, closing out the right way. To be in a no middle team, we want to close out to the outside. Even if I run him off, I don't want to run him off to now where he's, I'm running him off to the middle of the floor. Now he has a number of options. I want to run him off, and that, that varies from coach to coach. A lot of guys want to, close out to the shooting hand, right? So if it's you're on the right wing and it's a right-hand shooter, now you coming across to contest that right hand. Now you're just giving him middle drives, right? And then I think he has a lot more options that way. Now we close out to the outside, and now he got a little resistance in the corner. Now it's, our system of coming with our low man and doing that is built in and more important. So just those little details that can be the difference in winning and losing. And so I think those are the things that we spend a lot of time on. And to close out, another one that I add is like contesting. Even though I ran him off, now he, some teams that kind of are outliers that, take one dribble pull-ups. I can still get back and contest that. We call it like a rear view contest. Like we want to, as soon as my feet hit the ground, after I run him off and he takes that dribble, it's not over. I can still get back into play and get some rear view contests on those shots. And again, those are those multiple effort plays that become deciders in winning and losing.
Well, I love that you brought up that detail of the rear view contest. And that's very much a modern counter to modern offense, isn't it? That now when you run people off the line, you're going to recover. I'm wondering your teaching point on the rear view contest. Are they trying to recover to the shooter's side hand?
Yeah. Well, no, I think it's the same way. Again, I want to,
Okay.
if I'm on that right wing, I want to contest, send in the middle. And when I come back, I want to almost contest with the opposite hand, making sure that I don't come across his body to foul him.
Great point. Really cool to hear. And also it was great to hear you talk about grading system. And of course, we have to dive into that a little bit. I'm curious, obviously that goes back to Dean Smith and your time there. Anson Dorrance obviously popularized the competitive cauldron. What are some of the things that maybe you've adapted over the years with this competitive cauldron or this grading system?
Well, again, I think it's, it's your system, and what you put your priority to. And I think for us, no middle, having a stick hand, low man coming on time. A lot of people call it base goal. Coming over, building in the people around them. Are they doing their job? Or our crackback guy, second active safety guys. Everybody should be moving. On the drive. I got a responsibility to do something, even if I'm, in the strong side corner. Sometimes, it used to be like in the pros, like you have no coverage. If somebody drives a slot and you're in that strong side corner, you pretty much can just deny. You're not in the play right now. Now we made the adjustment to, again, make it look a little bit crowded. So I just think from those standpoints, those are the adjustments that you have to be aware of.
Love it. And I assume, is it practice and game you're giving them grading systems? And then what do you do with it? Do you post it for them, or how do you convey the information back to them?
I give it to them every day. Like I said, we have, he said no contest. Again, like that's didn't contest a shot. All right, I did everything right. And then it's the team too. Right? We graded for the team. Each possession, like transition is different. Like transition kind of its own animal, but in every half court set, like we can, we could get a stop. Just because you get a stop don't mean that it was a good possession. The guy didn't, like, we did everything right, and somebody didn't box out. So he's getting no box out. No, that contributes to his minus. The big wasn't up to the level. If we have a coverage where we're really being aggressive in corralling the ball, the big wasn't up to the level, or the guard wasn't into the ball, and they're getting a minus for the pick and roll coverage there. We might get a stop, but it doesn't count as those stops. And I've noticed that. And then you get positive. You get positives for a steal. You get positive for a deflection, a block shot, a drone charge. So that balances your number a little bit, So the mistakes that you're making on defense, if I got -9 and I got 2 steals and 2 charges, that's +4. So you're like -5. So you see, you got real tangible numbers that you can look at when we watch film, and I hand you the paper and you can see exactly what category that I got in. And you start to see a guy getting a trend of, he got a lot of no middles over the last 4 games. Now we can get a coach to go in there and really focus and work on him for that particular thing, and hopefully that gets better. Because I think we see that those numbers lowering contribute to win. So now the guy, I expect the guy, a freshman, to come in here. He's going to be -9 or -10. Probably one of the highest I've probably seen is probably -14. I ain't gonna tell who that is, but I think, and then you say, okay, now we just got to get that number down. We got to get that -9 down to a -4, and you're going to see. And now we got possessions, and I think maybe we have 60 possessions, and if you get half of those right, perfect, what I call a perfect defensive possession, where everybody did everything right, we boxed out, we got to stop, and sometimes they score. You can play really good defense and they score, so we just mark that check scored. So out of those 60 possessions, the trend that I've normally seen, if we get at least 40% of those right, that's normally a good chance that we get a win. If 50%, really good chance that we get a win. 60%, we're winning the game. No doubt we're going to find enough offense if we get 60% of our possessions right. But the thing about that, I said, 40% is a good chance to win. 50% is a great chance. We're still getting it wrong 50% of the time. So, defense is a game of mistakes. So it's not like we're expecting perfection. We want to strive for it, but knowing that if we get it right half of the time, we're going to be a really good, successful defensive team.
Just that perspective must be somewhat freeing to your players to understand that you understand that as well, right? That defense is not perfect.
Yeah. But and then a lot of times we can make up for it with, just multiple efforts. Like I said, it's not going to be perfect all the time. And sometimes, like, as we really understand and know who we are, covering up for each other, we may not get a check on that possession, but we're going to get some positives. Again, our plus-minus system as an individual. And once we get those numbers, and guys can be positive. We get guys that are +2 and +3 that don't really have, many, defensive mistakes or none. And then they're positive things. And then I think when we have, multiple guys, even flat. Flat is that's what I was. I can hear Coach Smith right now. Jerry, you had, 4 mistakes, and then you got 2 blocks and steals, so you're flat. So and that was cool. Like I said, obviously I wanted to be positive, but flat is good. That means that the negative plays that I had were countered by positive plays, and if you get more of your team in that area or plus, then you're going to win a lot of games. And as simple as that. It's a good way to just hold them accountable, man. Like that, this is tangible. Like, it's not, I hadn't talked about a shot yet. I hadn't talked about any missed shots. I hadn't talked about any offensive execution. This is solely things that we can control and things that we know how to do on the defensive end. And it requires you to think. Like, again, the game plan. Yeah, we're a team that wants to gap, DHOs, all dribble handoffs. We want to gap, but they got a knockdown shooter. And so today we want to war every DHO with this guy that's a shooter. We want to war him. So, and now if you come in and you gap that DHO, that's a minus. Even though that's our core principle of who we are, more times than not, we want to, gap the DHO. But for this particular game, we're warring it. So, being able to go into, each game and understanding the coverage is huge. That's why you have to be able to think.
The part that I want to highlight that you said that I think people miss about the importance of this type of grading system is you talked about the fact that a player would know that they're behind, but that they can also calculate how they can come back. So a really competitive player would use this as a method to be able to constantly, not always win, but to always improve, right?
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think it's not to the point where you want to start gambling, right? I know I just made 2 defensive mistakes. Now I'm going to gamble for a steal to try it again. I'd rather that be a deflection. Again, deflections count too. I mean, most of the time, the team with the most deflections is the most aggressive team, and usually the team that wins the game. So that's why we track all those things. Verticals. Now it's not about blocking a shot. A great vertical is a positive play now. So I think those are things that we've adjusted and know that, okay, you can but I think during the heat of the battle, I don't know if they think about it as much, the grading system, but soon as we get in there the next day and we're about to watch film, man, everybody's looking down, you know what I'm saying? And they're trying to figure out what their grade was, because it's now, and now I took it another step. Not only did you grade you got -6, but what was those negative possessions you had? How many points did they put on the board because of that? So a guy could have -6 for, only 4 points. And then you could have a guy that was only -3, but they made 3 threes on your mistakes. And it was, so it's -9. So I think those are the, real tests. So now you can see how my mistakes contribute to us either winning and losing the game. Not so much what your impact had on us winning the game, but your mistakes was impactful in us losing the game. So I think now it behooves us to make sure that we get those numbers lower, really focus on getting those numbers lower, and I think it contributes to the win. It takes points off the board, and our guys they eat that stuff up. It becomes a pride, and I think because I was one of those guys where I didn't want to be on that film every day. I mean, more during the course of the game, I'm focusing on not being on that film tomorrow, and Coach Smith, chewing me out, and he's spending the whole time talking about my mistakes. That's why I was focused more on the defense, and that the offensive stuff just happened naturally because I didn't want to be that guy. And we, as athletes, we have pride, and that's where this grading system is kind of, banking on. It's banking on you having pride and like, man, I'm not going to be the guy every day, because it's showing that I'm directly relating. My mishaps are directly relating to us losing basketball games. How can I, correct that and hopefully contribute to us winning?
Well, I love this. And it just strikes me, obviously listening to you, that your coaching style, which to me makes sense, is that your coaching style would be very direct and matter of fact, right? Built on honesty, because that's what you would have valued as a player.
Yeah. And then we see it. I mean, that's the thing about it. When we do it right, we get the results that we want. Like I said, and that's I guess the coaching myth. Why wouldn't we do it, man? That's why I said there's only 2 ways to do things: the right way and again. And when we do it again, here, there's the results. The proof is in the pudding, man. We did. You were up to the level. We got into the ball. Our weak side was where they were supposed to be, and not only, and we got a steal. It's not like that's my favorite. Man, shocker. We were where we were supposed to be. We did the things we were supposed to do, and we got stops, and we got out, and we were able to run and do what we're supposed to do. When we don't do those things, bad things happen. So why not? Let's do what we're supposed to do. So it is matter of fact, man. There's no gray area. But again, for whatever reason, I guess it's just the basketball that guys tend to do, even if the right way, the wrong way is the harder way. It's harder to do it that way. We still cheat and shoot the gap sometimes. We don't teach that. That's a lot of my film station, man. Where did they do that at? We don't do that here. Why would you get in the game and shoot a gap on a wide pin down when we work on it every day for you to war and come off where we got help? Now you shoot the gap, they flare back and shoot a 3. We didn't teach you that. So again, it is matter of fact. Do your job, be accountable, and the results will speak for themselves.
Yeah, it's great stuff. It really connects things for players to understand why you're teaching it as well. And what do you? I'm wondering what are you grading on offense, if anything?
Well, no, I mean, I think offensively, it's just kind of a theme of sharing it, man. I think guys are better engaged uh, defensively when they touch the ball offensively. I don't necessarily have to shoot it, but I want to touch it. And I think the emphasis on defense is movement, making sure that we got, weak side guys aren't able to just lock in. Um, Basically the philosophy is to shrink things defensively and expand things offensively. You want the floor to be open, and the game is going more to 5-out spacing. I think for us the philosophy is almost having 4 guys on the floor that can shoot the 3, and even 5. If you got a 5-man that can space out and shoot 3, it just gives you so much and more options, to be able to keep the floor open, to penetrate, to get to the paint, to get layups, and get to the free throw line, or having guys on the perimeter that can shoot. And I mean, I kind of one of the principles is drive it, kick it, swing it. Yeah, and we know sometimes you're going to drive it, kick it, and you're wide open, and you have to take that one. But for the most part, let's get that thing moving one more. That's really that one's going to really be open. I think that our numbers are off the chart whenever we drive it, kick it, swing it, and take that shot. It's normally a really good shot, or drive it again. And I think those weak side actions are really important, not just standing and over there, find me, but move into space. I think bailouts are huge. Whenever I drive, I should have 4 bailouts. I should have the big that's possibly relocating around the rim, 2 guys over there on the weak side, whether it's in the corner or the slot, and someone's pulling behind me just in case I get cut off. I can reverse pivot and someone's pulling behind. So I think those are key things to think about as a ball handler. Obviously, I want to go finish. If I can get a lane to go finish, but I don't, launching, that's guys that can go up and play 2 or 3 feet above the rim. Those are guys that you should allow to launch. But guys that can't do that, especially in the SEC, and at the next level, you need to come to a gather, and gather off of 2 and power up. And now you can, get guys off the feet and make plays on the perimeter right there. So those are just things that we try to focus on and teach our guys. And when you've got 2 people on you, you've done your job, right? We shouldn't have to take tough contested shots. Like if 2 people's on you, somebody's open. And now that's what we teach, to try to find, where my guy's on me, somebody else is coming to me. Who is he guarding? I got to try to find that man. Once we find that guy, then what I love to call it, like pulling triggers. That's all you want to pull a trigger. Once you pull a trigger, then you've done your job. Now let someone else make the next play.
Fun stuff. And you mentioned corner threes. So I'm curious then, what are some other things that do not transfer as well from the NBA to college? Like you talked about corner threes, they don't shoot them as well in college.
I don't know. I mean, I just don't think, probably like full court pressing, stuff like that. You don't see a lot of that at the next level. Guys are just kind of too good. I mean, you're banking on there's been somebody on the floor that maybe take a quick shot that shouldn't, in college that's probably not as proficient at making those shots. But, when you get to the pro level, you just want to try to be solid. I have seen zones work a little bit more at the highest level. But, I don't think it's still basketball. I think, ball screening, pulling those triggers there, being patient on the screen and rolls. I think that's one of the most underrated things, that you just waiting on screens, guards waiting on the bigs to come and actually set the screen. So again, we can pull a trigger. And it's twofold, bigs got to get there and actually, get at the right angle to be able to pull those triggers, rolling hard, trying to create single sides, where now you're putting this guy in a bind. If he doesn't tag the roller, then we're going to get the roll every time. Now, if he goes down to tag the roller, now we're throwing back for a single side and making sure that you're putting guys in the right spots. You want to make sure if you do get a single side action, that is your best shooter over there. You don't want your shooter standing in that opposite corner, if you were able to get those actions. So those are the things that, again, that we drill, playing in the pocket. Teams like us who want to be aggressive up in the pick and roll, now you got to play in that pocket, and now the big has to make a play. It's not always going to be you rolling to the basket and dunking. Now they're going to, teams are going to adjust. They're going to rotate to you, and now you got to be able to make those reads to the weak side. And we spend a lot of time on making sure our guys, have an understanding of that.
That's great. I love the terminology you're sharing with us throughout as well. And you talked about using ball screens. So that's something that I've noticed over the last, whatever you want to say, 5+ years, that college players are so much better using ball screens now. Like the emphasis on getting to shoulders, change of pace, hostage dribbles, different things like that. That has come down from the NBA or wherever it is. And it really improved the college game, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the one thing that I'm seeing more now, I call it a zip screen. Some people call it a ghost screen. Again, where you're coming in and those guys are acting like they're screening and they're just slipping out, and then it's a little confusion there, and then there's an opportunity to drive the lane. And I think you cover those a couple of different ways. If you got guys that's coming up away from the basket, then you got weak side protection to where you could stunt and stay in front of the ball a little bit longer. But those ones that go to the corner where you don't really have any help, it's almost like the guy that's, guarding the ghost screen. I mean, it's like he's almost want to tell that guy on the ball to stay more square because I'm going to go with them so we don't pull any triggers that way. But it's, but ball screens, mid pick and rolls, side pick and rolls, dribble handoffs, that's where the game is going. 5 men, in high school that are learning the game, handle the basketball. Don't let, the game is going away from just traditional, throw the ball into you. You're just going to be a big. You're going to have to guard on the perimeter some, and you're going to have to be able to handle, a couple of dribbles to get that ball, and it's tough to guard. Uphill DHOs is one of the toughest things, I think, to guard. You get a guy in the post, and now he takes the ball uphill to a guard. That big just doesn't know what to do. All of a sudden, I'm guarding in the post, and now I got to, almost defend the pick and roll. It's a great opportunity to get downhill for your guards.
I'm curious. I've heard that called a grenade by most of the NBA people I've been around. Is that what you call it, an uphill DHO?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great stuff. And you're going to see a lot more of that, I'm sure, coming into the college game as well. And this is a curiosity, not a criticism. So when we talked about Baylor Gonzaga a little bit, we saw the difficulty in covering a single side tag from Gonzaga because they were shocking or hedging, being aggressive on the ball screen. I have noticed that in college game most teams still aren't doing drop or ice coverages for the most part. Is that fair? I'm curious why that's the case.
Well, again, because it requires some teaching. I think it requires, a lot of folks just like to do what they know and what they're accustomed doing, and is try to get guys to just fit into that. They recruit to fit guys that fit what they do, as opposed to teaching them the game of basketball. And I think that's why you still, guys struggle when they get to the pro level, because even though they were good in the system that they were in, but they didn't learn how to play basketball and get exposed to different coverages. And I think that those single sides you could avoid those, again, by icing it or bluing it or weakening those coverages up there, kind of putting 2 guys on the ball. But it requires that weak side to be in tune, and then, like I said, with guys, if I'm looking at my man, there's no way I'm going to recognize a ball screen coverage. So I think those are why teams are just try to hedge and show. And if you do that, you're susceptible of that weak side guy having to take that roller. And now you offer an opportunity for them to spray that weak side and get a good look, as opposed to the opposite. If you could get in the coverage, make that roller go away from it, now he's not even coming to the single side. So now he's rolling to that double side where you got those guys at the nail, you got those guys at the block. So I think those are the kind of the principles that you want to get to. A lot of people used to call like a weak side eye. Right. But now, with the defensive three at the pro level, you can't really be in an eye, just standing in the paint. You can do it in college, obviously, but now you got to be outside of things. So we like to say kind of the nail in the block when those coverages are happening.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, the weak side eye, really requires an X out. And at the NBA level, it's hard because both those players are shooters. But usually at the college level, you could choose between the two. Who's the best shooter in terms of recovery? So I'm curious, is that what you teach on the weak side? Do you teach X outs or do you teach recover to your own?
Yeah, we teach X outs. I mean, like I said, sometimes, like I said, if you're in that zone and maybe that's a shooter, a pick and roll where you got a shooter and now he's popping and you want to buy time for that guy to get back. Now we get now you're stunting that guy that popped for a shooter. Now your guy back cuts you, right? Now that guy that's at the block, he takes him, right? You don't have to worry about trying to get back. He takes him and then he calls the X out. And whoever's shaping up, then the guy that's stunned to the shooter, now he gets back over to the weak side. So yeah, those are the rotations that we teach as well. Normally if a guy rolls, we like the term of kind of like tagging out of the turn. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like I just wanted to deter him. I want him to feel me a little bit. I don't really want to fully take the roller, but I just want to, as soon as I see this pick and roll happening, if I'm the nail guy, I just want to go and tag it early. Now I can get back to the weak side. Now he's thought about me on that roll. He's like, oh, something was there. But now I'm gone. I'm getting back to my weak side coverage. And if the guy continues to roll, now that low guy, he has to pull it. And then we can again get an X again, as we, the guy that tagged out of the turn, he goes back and now he has to play 2 for a minute because the low guy had to pull it on the roller, buying some time for the big to get back. And then we could, again, we want him to make as many passes as we can. I mean, I think, we have a team that scrambles pretty well. So we can get teams making, more passes as opposed to, one quick pass. And, I like to call zing passes. You allow a zing pass and guy get a shot right there. Then you don't give a chance for your defense to have an impact. The more passes that you can force teams to make, the more impact that you can have on the defensive side of the ball.
I love, brilliant that you brought up this early tag concept, because it's the same concept. Like if you think about being in help for covering a lob on the weak side, you don't need to be there the whole time. You just need to take away the initial look, because the passer is going to look first and they may not look again, right? And that's what we're trying to take advantage of, is offensive or human tendency to only look once.
Yeah, I mean, I think and just to having some savvy there, like those guy on the weak side, what is that roller looking? He's looking at the passer the whole time. You can step in and get a weak side charge. It doesn't matter if, they spray the weak side or not. That big is running you over and the ball is going the other way. So I think those are things that we got the toughness and have an understanding of what's going on. We can, you can make plays. And it seems like it's a high risk, if they don't call the charge now, and they swing it to that single side guy, you're in a bind. But again, those guys aren't. And then the thing about it, you give that one up. Now that big is looking for you the rest of the game, right? He's had his eye on that roller. He rolls and he gets a dunk. Now all of a sudden he's going to be looking at that roll. Now the first time you step in and you take a charge on him. Now again, now he's going to be cognizant of that. So I think just being able to give up your body sometimes can have a huge impact on your defensive efficiency.
Well, watching the NCAA tournament and texting with so many college coaches, I think you're all in agreement that block charge call is just really frustrating at the college level. And it tends to be a charge above anything else. And that's got to be frustrating or positive, depending on how you play defense, right?
Yeah, I mean, you hate it if you're on offense and you love it if you're on defense. It's no secret. That's culture. But I think, again, I just think that's it was a block. You know what I mean? It was a block. I mean, he was on the side. Yeah, I know it was his 4th foul and whatnot, and we were all happy that we got 5 more minutes of basketball. But in my mind, that was a block. He wasn't there. But you do see it more times than not that they give the benefit of the doubt to the guys that step in. I thought the whole tournament was a lot of charges that were called that were actually blocks. So
or play-ons, right? And that's really what never happens at the college level. It is either a block or a charge, and there's no play-on.
No doubt. And I think that's sometimes guys are. They maybe arrive there at the same time a little bit. Again, it's one of those ones where you don't want to bail them out and put them on the line for a game, but it's not necessarily a charge too. I would have loved to see what that play would have looked like again with, just a play on, but And again, we're still going to overtime, but I particularly think that was a block.
Well, you're on record now, Coach. So obviously, it's going to get analyzed to death even more now. Beyond analytics, as we go back a little bit, we talked about drop coverage or ice coverage. The one thing that I wanted to highlight that you were talking about too is that you saw it in that NCAA final is that they're either giving up a layup or a three, and when you go to drop or you go to ice coverages, it gives you an opportunity if you play it well to only give up a two. And I thought that was one of the possibilities that coaches should look at a little bit more and see how the pro teams do it in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's what I don't complain. Like I said, we want them taking 9 paint twos. Again, if they make it, we shake their hand. We still want to contest them, but at the same time, we took them off the 3-point line. We protected the paint. And obviously there's still some outliers. I just think the analytics show us that you get more bang for your buck, from the three. I rather sidestep. If a guy's going to run you off, sidestep. Take advantage of that line. Or if I do put it on the floor, let's really put pressure on that rim. Pull some triggers to have get them in rotations and try to spread again. Drive it, kick it, swing. Looking for another opportunity for a three, and then you get your 3, 4, and 5 crashing the board. I think offensive rebounding percentage is a huge number. When it comes to winning, and I think Baylor was, they were proof of that again. They were proof of the shots that they missed, that they crashed, and they got a good opportunity with. I think it was 30 to 35%. If you can get 30 to 35% of the shots that you missed again, you're gonna win a lot of games, and you're gonna put yourselves in a chance to really win big. But I try to keep it simple. Like we look at a lot of different numbers as far as analytics, but I try to keep it simple with our guys. I don't try to bombard them with a whole lot of numbers, because I think you can have just some paralyzation from information sometimes. If you give them too much. I just want them to think about those simple things. Let's get to the free throw line. Let's take advantage of, taking good 3-point shots. Let's get in the paint. Let's get layups. Let's get dunks, and try to create more possessions for ourselves than the other team by being really good defensively. We want more shots on goals than the other team. If y'all just focus on that thing, we'll deal with PPP and all those different things that come into it. Offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency. Let us worry about those as coaches. You just worry about on these little 4 or 5 things that help us win.
Well, for those coaches, and I think it's most of our audience that geek out on coaching basketball, I mean, you've already shared so much in terms of the terms and everything. I want to just wrap up with one last question, which I love that I've seen you, or I've heard you comment on this before, and that this group that we coach, whatever level we coach at, is the smartest generation ever. That on and off the court, they just are smarter. And I think we tend to generalize generations too much, but I couldn't agree more. Can you just expand on what you mean by that?
Yeah, I just think these guys, they've been exposed to so much more, with social media than we did. I mean, everything is right at their fingertips. Computer information, you can look up so much, and just fresh, perspective. Just this new generation, these kids are. I mean, they're in tune. Obviously, they still need to be taught. I mean, they're still kids, and they're still, make mistakes, and we got to, give them a blueprint of how to be successful and how to be tactful and how they approach things. But they're extremely smart, and I think that once they get some, information, they have ways to really expand on it, and do some things. So I mean, being here at Vanderbilt, man, I'm fortunate to be around some really, really smart kids. It doesn't mean that they're going to do what they're supposed to do, because it doesn't necessarily, matter sometimes. I mean, there's some guys that I've had that, weren't the smartest academia-wise, but they really picked up things and had natural feel defensively. And you got some guys that might get, 1,500 on the SAT that just can't pick up, drop coverage for whatever reason. So I've learned that. I mean, I was so happy when I got here. I was like, man, for all of the guys that I had that couldn't get some things, I'm about to get some guys that's going to get everything because they got 28 on the ACT. I was wrong. You know what I'm saying? you still got to teach. You still got to hit all those different components. Again, some guys you can tell them, they pick it up. Some guys, I go back to that all the time. Some guys visually, Aaron Neesmith, he had to come and sit in my office. He had to go on the board and draw some things himself. Once he, draw it on the board and we talked about it, he got it, and he was, this is a lottery pick. This guy went 14th in the draft, but it took a different way of him seeing things for him to get that. So I don't take that lightly. I don't take it for granted. Make sure that we hit all three different angles of learning so that we give all of our guys a chance to be successful and have a great understanding of how we approach and how we do things.
Coach, we can tell from listening to you, you can really teach and you know the game from both sides of the ball, and just tremendous to be able to get your perspectives. Thanks for sharing the game with us.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me, man. I really enjoyed talking the game and really enjoyed your platform. I think you do a great job, man. Good luck to you as well.
Thank you, Coach.